back in 2011, Sign of the Moon had just come out. Up to that point, I had bought and read every Warriors book, except SkyClan's Destiny, which had come out a few months prior and I was struggling to get through, and to be honest, even though I loved Warriors, Omen of the Stars was already bothering me on multiple levels back then. The last book, Night Whispers, seemed to finally be moving the story forward with its gripping ending, only to be told 6 months later that the next book would be another traveling book focused on the tribe of Rushing Water. Alright then. So, even though I bought Sign of the Moon with the intention of giving it a chance and reading it, I don't think I ever did. It sat on a bookshelf and it was the last Warriors book I read until I got back into them when Vision of Shadows came out and put Warriors back on the straight and narrow. I found a bunch of the older books I'd missed out on were pretty good though. Tall Star's Revenge, of course, was one of my all-time favorites. Crooked Star's Promise is a fantastic book. And the Dawn of the Clan books have been really good so far too. So, where does that leave Omen of the Stars? I finally decided that I needed to buckle down and read these books for myself. What happened in this arc? Was it as bad as everyone said it was? Well, I finished reading them, and now I've got a lot to say. So there's a lot of things wrong with Omen of the Stars. We've all talked about it before, be it on forums, YouTube comments, rant videos, Twitter, or just with your friends. I think we all agree Omen of the Stars has some shortcomings when compared to the rest of the series. The plot is ridiculous and makes leaps in logic to both progress and stop the story from continuing. The character motivations can be muddled or just plain nonsensical based on the pre-established world Warriors already takes place in. The Dark Forest and StarClan becoming more and more physical with each book, and the outrageous lengths both sides to go to accomplish their goals is insultingly infuriating to read. And the build-up for so many books leading to what many would call a very unsatisfying ending? Yeah. Omen of the Stars had a lot to do, but not quite enough stamina to do it justice. But, I don't think Omen of the Stars is a failure. Omen of the Stars delivers on some important aspects in Warriors that definitely made the series stand out, and there's a reason that for some it's their favorite arc out of all the others. The relationship between Dovewing and Ivypool shines as one of the series' biggest triumphs, putting even Squirrelflight and Leafpool's magical sisterhood to shame. Ivypool's character arc and the emotional trauma she goes through, while not horribly graphic, make Ivypool one of the more interesting, unique, and relatable main characters Warriors has ever offered. We also finally got a character's perspective from another clan besides ThunderClan in the form of Flametail. Stormford doesn't count because they were all on a journey together and his River Clan-ness is never really taken into account all that much. But Flametail has some of the best chapters in his book, Night Whispers. Minor characters get some pretty deep and interesting B stories in each book as well, and Omen of the Stars has some pretty amazing and heartfelt scenes when it really takes time to stop and breathe for a bit. There's some great character moments sprinkled in these books, and whenever an important character dies, minus a few exceptions, you really feel the weight of it, and Omen of the Stars kills off some pretty important and long-loved characters, but still gives them the proper send-off. That's not easy to do, so I want to give credit where credit is due. Between New Prophecy, Power of Three, and Omen of the Stars, I think Omen of the Stars does the best in writing an engaging story and tying in memorable characters. While I don't have the fond memories of reading Omen of the Stars like I do for Power of Three, even I can admit that Omen of the Stars overall has the best package of story and characters since the prophecies begin. But all of that is the boring stuff. I'm not here to talk to you guys about surface level what makes Omen of the Stars the best or worst series. You're all capable of judging how much you value it on your own, so instead of talking about the pros and cons of Omen of the Stars as a series itself, let's take a long hard look at what it is and how the Hunters might have done things differently. First, big disclaimer. I'm going to be talking about Omen of the Stars with no reservation about spoilers. Secondly, I realize the Hunters are humans, they write these books as a job, and while I'm sure they take some pride in their work, at the end of the day, someone has to get these books written. If I had to make an educated guess, I'd say that most of Omen of the Stars' problems probably come from the Hunters having to write it on the fly and not being given enough time to do another pass at certain elements. Because sometimes one or two rewrites can really make or break the flow of a story. And I do genuinely believe that Omen of the Stars had a good, fairly solid story to tell. It just wasn't quite there yet. But that is the story we got. It's the books that got published and the books I spent over $50 on. So we're going to judge them for what they are. With those things out of the way, let's get started. Omen of the Stars starts off in a pretty unimpressive fashion. The Fourth Apprentice is probably one of the series' least loved books, and for good reason. The entire plot of The Fourth Apprentice is mostly filler, excluding a few plot points that have nothing really to do with the rest of the main conflict. Dovepaw is introduced, Lionblaze and Jayfeather figure out that she's the third cat, and Breezepelt is up to some evil shenanigans with his new homeboy, Broken Star. Other than that, there's some ridiculous story about beavers, and the lake drying up, and cats, kitty pets, Tigerheart is there. They save the day somehow, and the book ends. Just from this book alone, Omen of the Stars does not inspire confidence. For being a brand new fresh face to the series, Dovepaw has to share 2/3 of her beginning book with Jayfeather and Lionblaze, who already have 6 books worth of character development and backstory to lean on. Dovepaw is an interesting character. She's moralistic like her predecessor Hollyleaf, but more naive, less experienced, and not as ambitious. And while I think her power is a bit of an odd fit for the Warriors universe and doesn't get used to its full potential, its introduction and the way Dovepaw uses it, and how it's just part of who she is very compelling in this first book and in the books to follow. Dovewing is an outcast as one of the 3, but also much younger than Lionblaze and Jayfeather, so you can even say that she's kind of an outcast from the outcasts. And this explains a lot of her behavior throughout these books. I just wish she would have gotten more time to develop this aspect of her earlier on before the plot sort of spirals out of control with the Dark Forest, more point of view characters, and prophecy mumbo-jumbo. Dovewing didn't get the proper chance to shine as a character before the audience is thrown into other, much bigger problems, which is why many find her subplots of trying to find exception through love very irritating. If more time had been given to Dovewing earlier on, her character arc would feel more justified and relatable. And the books do get better after the first installment. Much, much better, in fact. But here's where it starts to become more obvious that Omen of the Stars is structurally failing at something. And it's not entirely its fault. These problems mostly come from the fact that Omen of the Stars is bouncing off the series' Power of 3. I know myself and many others have talked about Power of 3 and Omen of the Stars could have, and probably should have, all been fit into one 6-book arc instead of the long, drawn-out mess that it turned out to be. But I do think that there's another solution here that would keep Power of 3 and Omen of the Stars still mostly intact and avoid an entire rewrite of both series. One of the biggest issues with this arc is pacing, and a lot of these pacing problems come from the fact that each book is split up between too many characters. While reading these books, I began to wonder how many chapters each character got per book, so I went in and looked in every book and made a table to show my results. As we can see from looking at this, each character in each book is only given 9 chapters maximum to tell a complete arc per book. 9 or less chapters is not a lot of time, and poor Lionblaze suffers the worst from having only 4 chapters each in Fading Echoes, Night Whispers, and Sign of the Moon. Lionblaze has no growth in these books, but he's still shoehorned into the plot and given time, even though these extra few chapters could have been given to any of the other main characters. I think Omen of the Stars could have benefited greatly from putting aside the formula Power of 3 started by having the 3's point of view in each book, and gone back to New Prophecy's way of only giving a character's perspective that was important for that book. Night Whispers suffers from this the most, since a short children's novel is trying to split so little time between 5 characters with the inclusion of Flametail. And since nobody's stories are really connected, the end result is sloppy and sudden. Flametail's death is tragic, but it has so little time to build up that it can't really leave the impact it should, considering how important Flametail's death is for the rest of the series. Night Whispers also jumps the gun by having the Dark Forest cats seemingly revealing their plans and going all ham evil, only to go back to being mostly evil in Sign of the Moon and Forgotten Warrior. It's a bit of a narrative whiplash that really only served to give Night Whispers a bombastic ending that was never really followed through on until The Last Hope. Each book could have been much stronger if it was just 1 or 2 characters trying to tell us the story rather than everyone. Fourth Apprentice would have been the perfect book for Jayfeather and Dovepaw to share, for example. Lion Blaze didn't really add anything that couldn't be explained through Dovepaw, and it would be more of an opportunity to get to know Dovepaw and build her relationship with Ivypaw before they get torn apart by jealousy and prophecy in later books. Fading Echoes could have been rewritten to just be from Ivypaw's point of view, give her the time in the story to also get fleshed out, and dig really deep into how the three get special treatment and how Ivypaw was introduced to the Dark Forest. Night Whispers would have been a good book for Dovepaw and Flametail to share, while Sign of the Moon could have just focused on Jayfeather and his involvement with the tribe and the Ancient Cats. Forgotten Warrior would then make a good book for Lion Blaze to lead in, because the conflict mostly has to do with the return of Hollyleaf. Learning to fight underground to prepare for Soul's plans, and the whole Cinderheart B-plot could have fit into this one book rather than stretching it out over the entire series. Plus, Forgotten Warriors would now have a double meaning, since Lion Blaze is finally returning as a point of view character, as well as it featuring Hollyleaf's return. Last Hope is the only one that I think splits the four characters' perspectives well, and has just enough length to tell what it needs to with each character effectively. It's not perfect, but splitting these books up between less characters per book could have given Omen of the Stars a boost on the storytelling side of things. I know we all hate it when we get to the next chapter and it's from a character's point of view we don't like very much. But if the characters are given more time to be actually interesting, it might have saved poor Lion Blaze from all the bashing he gets for not doing much book after book after book. This would mean a lot of elements would have to be switched around. But I think it would have also fixed another problem these books have: communication. And I don't mean communication between readers and the book, I mean communication between characters. There's this weird sense in this whole arc that our main characters are too busy to talk to each other 99% of the time, when I really think that it's just the Hunter's way of delaying plot elements and building drama by not having the characters realistically talk to each other about things. Ivypool especially strikes me as odd, because she's supposed to be gaining information on all the Dark Forest cats to then later tell Dovewing, Jayfeather, and Lion Blaze about, and while she certainly does the whole spying on the Dark Forest thing, she never really actually tells anyone what's going on. In fact, it's made a point of that she constantly lies to the three about what's happening to save herself the headache of being judged. If Ivypool was a point of view character in one or two books, her secrecy and lying could be seen as suspicious, and the other characters would try to talk to her more often, leading for more times for them to have character moments and build relationships. As it stands right now, I don't believe any of our protagonists actually care that much about each other. In The Prophecies Begin, we never question how much Firestar cares about his clanmates because he's constantly talking to them, asking about their lives, doing favors for them, and just being a good friend. But most of our characters in Omen of the Stars never really give much thought to what our other leads are doing, except for when they absolutely have to be together to get something done. Which I'll admit does offer this weird sort of relationship the four have with each other, where they're only bound together by necessity. But their dynamic never changes into the "I've seen some crazy shit with you, man, but I've got your back" feeling that really should be there. Their flippant attitudes towards each other is even more strange, considering that they are all family and they have seen some crazy shit together. This isn't to say that they never have these kind of moments, but they are few and far between, and sometimes in really bizarre spots. Take one of my favorite scenes from this arc, actually. In Sign of the Moon, Book 4 of Omen of the Stars, Jayfeather and Lion Blaze find themselves down in the tunnels where Hollyleaf died, and Jayfeather and Lion Blaze finally talk about Hollyleaf's death, and even make an attempt to find her body. The brothers actually feel like brothers here, and they're finally addressing the issue that they've lost a sibling who was very close to them. It's a wonderful scene, and it even ends with Lion Blaze and Jayfeather figuring out that Hollyleaf might still be alive. The only problem with this scene is that it takes 4 whole books for it to even happen! This scene should have taken place in book 1, or book 2, but not in book 4, after Hollyleaf has been considered dead for pretty much forever in Warrior Cat's time. There's hardly any build-up to this scene in previous books either. Lion Blaze and Jayfeather are rarely ever thinking about Hollyleaf, and especially never talk about her together. You could say that this shows how hard it is for them to talk about her, and how they'd rather just forget the pain, But I think that since as the readers we hear Jayfeather constantly complaining about his clanmates and his thoughts, a few more scenes of Jayfeather or Lionblaze thinking bitterly about the loss of their dear sister would have been appreciated. This leads to another issue I found in Omen of the Stars. The story is very sporadic, which furthers my reasoning in thinking that the hunters wrote these books as they came to mind, rather than having a set plan from the beginning. This doesn't make the story bad, but it does lead to some odd moments when a scene happens that feels out of place. I'd argue that Sign of the Moon's plot would have made for a much stronger opening to Omen of the Stars instead of Fourth Apprentice. Actually, now that we think about it, probably any book in the arc would have been a much better opener than Fourth Apprentice. But I digress. In Sign of the Moon, Jayfeather is told to go to the tribe to help them find a new stone teller. His faith is shaken from the death of Flametail, and it's a pretty lonely book, as Jayfeather is also thrown into the past again to relive his past life as Jayswing. Despite how you may feel about the whole Jayfeather reliving the past side plot, this would have been a perfect book to follow up Sunrise with. Hollyleaf is gone, the prophecy and the brothers are shaken, and now StarClan continues to make demands that Jayfeather feels obligated to follow. If this was the lead into Omen of the Stars, Jayfeather's loneliness and the longing to remain in the past would have been more narratively supported. Dovewing follows Jayfeather on this journey, and is also given some much better character moments in this book rather than in Fourth Apprentice. We really see her struggle with the power she has and being overwhelmed by it. And if she was also dealing with just finding out that she was one of the three, her power being overwhelming makes for a good parallel on how she feels in the group dynamic. This book could then conclude with Jayfeather learning to let the past, and by extension Hollyleaf, go, and accept Dovewing as the third cat in the prophecy. Just like how he has to give the tribe a new stone teller. It's a good parallel, where the main characters learn to practice what they preach, and the relationship with Jayfeather and Dovewing as bearers of this prophecy could have been given more weight and meaning. Of course, this would lead to a myriad of changes that would have to be made by reordering the books, but I think this would have made for a stronger beginning. What Omen of the Stars really lacked, though, was theming. But this is where I'm going to have to cut off for today, so join me next time when we take a look at some of Omen of the Stars' themes, or rather, lack thereof. I've been Simmy, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye! Thank you everyone for waiting for this part 1. This video has been taking a while. Originally this video was one big long one, and it turned out to be over 40 minutes long, so I decided to cut it in half. So the second part of the video is coming along really well. I'm hoping it'll be out in the next few weeks, so keep your fingers crossed for that. And I want to give a shout out to all the people who let me use their artwork. Some of it is going to be used in the next part of the video, so thank you guys so much for letting me do that. It really saves me a lot of time from having to do a lot more extra art, and the artwork you guys give me is fantastic, so thank you. And I also want to do a big shout out to the people on Patreon who support this channel. Thank you guys so much. These videos and what I do would not be possible without your help. And I just want to say, if you want to donate to the Patreon, we've got a lot of fun projects coming up, and we have a Discord server. If you are donating to the Patreon at all, you can join that server and we all talk and have a pretty good time, and I share some of the projects that I'm working on over there, and it's a lot of fun. But anyways, I'll let you guys go on about your business and do non-warrior cat related things now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye!